Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of Middle-earth Lore. Today, we're diving into a story that's both heroic and heartbreaking. We're going to explore what happened to the elves who fought in the epic battle of Helm's Deep. Remember that iconic moment when the elves, led by Haldir, stood side by side with the people of Rohan. They were like shining stars in a dark night, bringing hope to a seemingly hopeless battle. But have you ever wondered what became of those brave elves after the battle was over? That's exactly what we're here to find out. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode. The Battle of Helm's Deep is one of the most memorable events in the history of Middle-earth. It's a moment that stands out as both incredibly important and deeply emotional. Set against the rugged beauty of the ancient fortress of Helm's Deep, this battle was a turning point in the War of the Ring. In Peter Jackson's film adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, we see the elves, led by the brave Haldir, arriving at Helm's Deep to aid the people of Rohan. Their arrival was unexpected but incredibly uplifting. The sight of these tall, elegant warriors, with their shining armor and keen eyes, brought hope to the hearts of the men and women who were preparing for what seemed like an impossible fight. As the battle began, the elves took their place on the Deeping Wall, the first line of defense against the massive army of Uruk-hai sent by Saruman. The Uruk-hai were fierce, relentless, and terrifying, but the elves held their ground with unwavering courage. Their bows sang out as they released volley after volley of arrows, each one finding its mark in the midst of the enemy ranks. It was a scene of both beauty and horror, as the elves fought with grace and precision against an overwhelming tide of darkness. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that the odds were stacked against them. The Uruk-hai were relentless, crashing against the walls like a stormy sea. Despite their skill and bravery, the elves were slowly being pushed back. The situation grew more desperate by the minute, and Haldir, realizing the peril they were in, tried to organize a retreat. Tragically, Haldir was struck down in the heat of battle. His death was a heartbreaking moment, a stark reminder of the terrible cost of war. As the camera lingered on his lifeless form, surrounded by the fallen bodies of his kin, it was hard not to feel a deep sense of loss. The elves had come to help, but many of them paid the ultimate price. In the aftermath of the battle, the ground around Helm's Deep was littered with the bodies of the fallen. The elves, who had fought so bravely and skillfully, were now lying in silent rows, their eyes closed as if in peaceful sleep. It was a somber scene, a visual representation of the immense sacrifice they had made. Yet even in death, the elves left behind a legacy of courage and honor. Their selfless sacrifice had helped to turn the tide of the battle, giving Rohan a fighting chance. Though they may have fallen, their memory would live on in the hearts of those who survived, inspiring future generations to stand up against the forces of darkness. But what happened to the elves who fell at Helm's Deep? In Tolkien's rich mythology, death is not the end for elves. According to the lore, when an elf dies, their spirit is taken to the halls of Mandos, a place in the Undying Lands where they rest and reflect on their life. The halls of Mandos are ruled by Mandos, one of the Valar, who are powerful beings that help to shape and guide the world. Here, the spirits of the fallen elves are cared for in a state of gentle repose. They're given time to heal from the wounds of their past life, both physical and emotional. It's a place of peace and reflection, far removed from the chaos and violence of Middle-earth. In the halls of Mandos, Time flows differently. The spirits of the elves do not age as they would in Middle-earth. Instead, they wait for the moment when they can be re-embodied or given a new physical form. This process is not a punishment, but a natural part of the cycle of life for elves. Though they may never return to Middle-earth, they do have the chance to live again in Valinor, the undying lands where they can find peace and happiness. So, for the elves who fell at Helm's Deep, their journey didn't end on the battlefield. Instead, they were taken to the halls of Mandos, where they could rest and heal. One day, they might be reborn in Valinor, where they could live in peace, far from the troubles of Middle-earth. Their sacrifice was not in vain, and their spirits live on, waiting for the day when they can walk again in the fair lands of the West. While many elves fell in the Battle of Helm's Deep, some did survive. After the battle, the surviving elves, along with Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, regrouped within the walls of Helm's Deep. They were exhausted and wounded, but they were still determined to defend the fortress to the very end. The arrival of Gandalf with reinforcements from Rohan was a turning point in the battle. As the first light of dawn broke over the mountains, Gandalf and the riders of Rohan charged down the hill, crashing into the ranks of the Uruk-hai. The tide of battle shifted, and the defenders of Helm's Deep rallied with renewed strength. In the aftermath of the battle, the survivors mourned their fallen comrades. The losses were heavy, and the grief was palpable. But there was also a sense of triumph. They had survived one of the darkest nights in the history of Middle-earth, and they had done it together. The bonds forged in the heat of battle were strong, and the surviving elves emerged from Helm's Deep not as defeated warriors, but as heroes who had stood firm against the forces of evil. For the elves who survived, their journey was not yet over. They knew that more challenges lay ahead, but they were ready to face them. With the dawn of a new day, they looked to the horizon, their spirits unbroken, and their resolve stronger than ever. After the battle, the surviving elves returned to their homeland, Lothlorien, the beautiful forest realm ruled by Lord Celeborn and Lady Galadriel. It was a place of peace and tranquility, a stark contrast to the grim realities of war. But even in this enchanted land, the shadows of war could not be entirely escaped. The news of the fallen elves spread quickly through Lothlorien, and the entire realm mourned their loss. The once joyful songs of the forest were replaced with somber melodies of mourning as the elves paid tribute to their fallen kin. Yet amidst the grief, there was also a strong sense of resolve. The elves knew that the war was not over, and they prepared themselves for the battles to come. In it, the elves fortified their defenses and readied their weapons. They knew that their home was in danger, and they were determined to protect it at all costs. Lady Galadriel, with her powerful ring Nenya, strengthened the borders of Lothlorien, using her magic to shield the realm from the encroaching darkness. The surviving elves, though weary from battle, were determined to stand with their kin and defend their homeland. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. They had already faced the horrors of war at Helm's Deep, and they had no intention of letting their beloved Lothlorien fall to the forces of evil. The defense of Lothlorien was a fierce and desperate battle. The forces of darkness, led by Sauron's minions, attacked the borders of the woodland realm with relentless fury. But the elves of Lothlorien were ready. With their unmatched skill in archery and their deep connection to the land, they fought with a strength and determination that took the enemy by surprise. Under the protection of Lady Galadriel's magic, the elves unleashed a devastating counterattack. Their arrows flew through the air like silver streaks of lightning, each one finding its mark with deadly precision. The trees themselves seemed to rise up in defense of their home, as the elves used every advantage they had to repel the invaders. The battle raged for days, with neither side willing to give ground. The forest echoed with the sounds of battle, the clash of swords, the cries of the wounded, and the roar of the enemy. But the elves held their ground, refusing to let the darkness overtake their home. In the end, it was the elves' unbreakable spirit that won the day. With a final, desperate push, they drove the enemy back from the borders of Lothlorien, sending them fleeing into the shadows from which they had come. The battle was won, but the cost was high. Many elves had fallen in defense of their home, and the forest would never be the same. But Lothlorien stood strong, a beacon of hope in a world that was rapidly descending into darkness. The story of the elves who fought at Helm's Deep and the defense of Lothlorien is one of courage, sacrifice, and determination. These noble warriors knew that the fight against the forces of evil would be long and difficult. But they were willing to give everything to protect the world they loved. Though many of them fell in battle, their legacy lives on. The elves of Middle-earth are remembered not just for their beauty and grace, but for their incredible bravery in the face of overwhelming odds. Their sacrifice helped to turn the tide of the war and gave hope to those who fought on. And so, as we remember the elves who stood at Helm's Deep, let us honor their memory by standing up against the darkness in our own world. Let their courage inspire us to fight for what is right, even when the odds seem impossible. For as long as we remember their sacrifice, the light of their spirit will continue to shine, guiding us through the darkest of times. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the fate of the elves from Helm's Deep. Their bravery and sacrifice were pivotal in the War of the Ring, leaving a lasting legacy on Middle-earth. Their story is a testament to courage, camaraderie, and the bittersweet realities of war. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened to these noble warriors. Did their sacrifice resonate with you? Do you have any suggestions for future topics you'd like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Middle-earth, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating content. Your support helps us continue exploring the rich lore and legends of Tolkien's world. Until next time, this is Hidden Kingdoms. Signing off is Hidden.